So I am projecting a release date for my book. I'm hoping for either February 4th or February 14th. I love both sequences. So stay tuned. I want to take a quick moment to talk about the beef between the spiritual community and 13 frequency beings. Now, this is an inevitable conflict, right? This is a frequency conflict. So it's not personal, okay? When we have an enlightened or a spiritual being confronting the untruths of systemic indoctrination, of certain belief systems, of certain opinions, perspectives, it's not personal. We see the way. We have the eye. So we know what's hindering humanity. So anytime I confront or oppose a system, a belief system, certain forms of indoctrination, it's not without reason, my love. A 13 frequency believes in coincidence and randomness. A spiritual being believes in divine synchronicity, in divine signs and symbolism. A 13 frequency being believes in science. A spiritual being believes in karmic energies and energetic exchanges, soul contracts. So we have hugely conflicting belief systems. I see things as divinely orchestrated by a perfect engineer. But 13 frequency beings, or the factual beings, or the realistic beings, right, governed by or influenced heavily by earthbound spirits or earth-created spirits, which is fine, right? We all hold different resonances. But when you talk about an earthbound being versus the perspective of a cosmic being, it's very different. For example, the scientific or medical perspective of addiction is that you are just this way. You have a disease. The way I see it is you possess soul harm. You have wounding. And the use of this substance allows you to alleviate the discomfort that is provided by said wounds or said traumatic experiences. They talk about it. They talk about the reality of trauma as it relates to addictive behavior. And yet they still call it a disease, a chronic illness, and not something that can be alleviated by inner work and spiritual understanding of karmic matters and other energetic exchanges. This is just an example of how a spiritual being is going to conflict with 13 frequency belief systems. And this intrigues me because when you think about it, they often will reference diabetes and not cancer. Why? When you think about diabetes, unless it is type 1, right, you are born with that, or it appears during childhood. But typically, if we're referring to or referencing type 2, this is a self-initiated disease. And when you understand addictive behavior, it also relates to food consumption. So in other words, it is also a byproduct or a symptom of using food as a substance to alleviate discomfort brought on by certain woundings of the soul. You can't talk about addiction as a disease that is brought on by the universe randomly, like cancer. It is self-initiated. In other words, it is a coping skill. Because even when that cycle of darkness is ordained by the universe or ordained by God, a 70 cycle is the result of a certain form of trauma. It is also the result of the darkness that falls after grief, which is an attachment trauma, which most inner child woundings are also attachment traumas. It's not a disease, in my opinion. And by doing the inner work and gaining full self-awareness by way of inner work, essentially attaining enlightenment, you can alleviate said disease. So I have to listen to this all the time. These belief systems that are so just earthly and strange to a cosmic being like myself.